welcome to the Women in Business Radio Show. I'm Sian Murphy. My host is, say hello, Adelle.
Hello, hi everybody.
And in the studio today we've got two guests. We've got Sadie Gough, who is the founder of Sadie Gough Coaching, and we've got Joanna Cates, who is the visual storyteller of Joanna Cates Creates and the saucy author of romance. So we're going to be calm. We're going to stay. I tell you what, we're going to be very cool in here. I don't think there wouldn't be an awful lot of saucy romance going on in this studio. What with the air conditioning, we'll all have to be in great big sleeping bags. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, those of you who have been listening in regularly may know that we've now extended our show. So the show is now 2 hours long. I'm not quite sure. We're talking sort of waffle for 1 hour. We've now extended.
I know, we just had this idea, didn't we? It's for two.
We've now extended it for two. So we are going to be talking in the first half of the show. We're going to be talking mainly with Sadie about new directions with confidence. We're then going to have a little bit of a break. We're all going to run downstairs to the toilets. We're going to play a record, and we're going to go and have a wee. And then in the second half, we're going to be talking with Joanna about lockdown, and the topic I've come up with these words, it's unleashed by lockdown, which, seeing as during lockdown, I think Joanna sort of stepped over into becoming a saucy author. I think unleashed probably is the word. Anyway, we're going to stay calm and cool.
We absolutely are.
So let's get going. I have a particular challenge, actually, do you know, this week. I listened to one of the recordings of the show, so those of you may know, it's turned into a podcast. And I'm doing it now, look. And I catch myself, I'm sort of not exactly smacking my lips, but I keep them. So I've got to stop doing it. I don't quite know how to.
You've made me. Now I'm going to keep watching.
Now, yeah, I'm doing it again now. Look, I'm doing it forever.
I'm going to listen again. No, okay.
I mean, I was driving myself nuts, and it was me doing it. I couldn't stand listening to it. So I'm so sorry. I can't edit it out. So, I've just got to learn how not to do it. Okay. And of course, the next step on is to get a professional voice coach, but we don't want that, do we? No, it would.
Do it our way.
It would. Yeah. No, I'll just carry on. So I'm terribly sorry, folks. You'll have to carry on with me laughing very loudly and smacking my lips together. That's just what's going to happen. So, where are we going now? One day we're going to organise this.
Again?
Yeah,
right.
I know.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, because there wouldn't be quite so many ums and and what are we going to do now? But let's get going, shall we? So, been up to anything useful this week?
I've been up to quite a bit this week, yes. Got a little bit of a launch going on tomorrow, so I've spent most of this week getting the last things prepared for my new club opening. So, yeah, it's been a hectic week.
I spent a lot of it in bed, actually. Yeah, I have, with my journal, just sort of, and my spreadsheets, organising myself. And that's because that's where it started, and I just sort of carried on. But never mind.
Organised though? Do you know what?
I sort of am, actually.
Yeah. Sometimes sitting in bed is the best place to do it.
Yeah. It's certainly don't get disturbed.
No,
that's
you don't. Absolutely not.
Well, it's there's no dogs, there's no cat. Everything in our house is ancient. All the dogs and cats, they're all 20, which is really old for dogs and cats. They're all creaking around, drinking water and in and out of the garden, and it drives me nuts. Bless them. So up there, peace and quiet.
Absolutely.
I'm waffling, aren't I? I am. Okay, shall we get on with it? Let's introduce the guest that we're going to focus on in the first half of the show, which is Sadie Gough. Welcome, Sadie.
Hello, nice to be here.
It's great to have you here. And you're a business coach, aren't you? Have I got that right?
It's a confidence and mindset coach, so working with women in business or in corporate environments to help elevate their confidence.
We're going to ask Sadie a little bit later just to tell us sort of how she got to where she is. But first of all, we're going to have our first round of, quick fire round of, I must stop calling it waffle, because I think we should be definite about this. It's not waffle.
No, it's good information.
It's useful stuff. Okay. So we are going to go through our first roundup of tools, books, quotes, thoughts, and what did we learn this week? So I think we better start off with you, Adelle.
Okay.
Fire away. I'm just going to wiggle my chair up and down until I can get myself into the right position. So you hold the fort for a bit.
No worries. So in terms of tools for me this week, it has still back with Zoho, but it is the one authorisation application. So you can use it to hold all of the passwords, because sometimes I have another bit of software, but I've put that all in one place. Then as I go through different devices, it always brings up my passwords. And I was like, oh, why? Again, I was always Sian. It's been sitting under my nose. I pressed the button by mistake and thought, oh, this is useful. And then I've managed to migrate all my passwords over, and it's really quick and easy. And it's already in Zoho 1.
I use Zoho One, and I've not got to that one yet. And I have 2 password managers at the moment, both of which are driving me nearly nuts. If you want to know why I look like this, of course you can't see it because it's radio. I've got a very stressed look on my face. It's because passwords are actually the bane of my business life. I get a churning in my stomach every time I press a button. I think, is it going to log on? Is it going to log on? Or am I going to have to go through the lost password thing? Is the password manager going to load? And is the right thing going to be in there? So at the moment I'm using, because I have Macs, I use, I don't know, what's a it's like Keychain.
Keychain, yeah.
Which is very good, I have to say. But it doesn't work on Chrome.
No, that's what I'm...
And every now and then I need to hop over and go onto Chrome. So then Keychain's no good. So the other one I've got is NordPass, which is sort of okay. It's the best I've found so far, but it sometimes gets itself a bit confused, or I've confused it. That's probably more like it, because I think millions of people use it quite happily. It's just Sian that has a problem. So I might give it a go with one authorisation. What's good about it?
Again, I go between Safari and Chrome all of the time, and different devices, and I haven't got to think, well, that's on Chrome, and it was just difficult. I've also got another one that in the background, LastPass, but again, I found it keep timing out. I
got quite frustrated with LastPass. It always seemed to have the wrong passwords in it.
No, it does, and I agree with you, and I don't know why. So I just,
it had a password, but not the password.
No, same, exactly. And then I checked it back to Safari, and is it me or not? I thought, I can't be doing this. And then I found Zoho. So my aim is to get them all in one place with one version of the truth.
Do you know yet? Have you got to the point? Does it work on your phone? You see, because Keychain, because I have iPhones.
Yeah.
Keychain works on my Mac and any other, and also my phone.
Yeah, same as myself. Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, because again, I've got Zoho 1 on my phone and my iPad and my.
Right. Well, that's me. I could spend the entire day doing that, can't I? Crikey! I could waste an amazing amount of time.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Moving everything over to one authorisation. So thank you for that. Fantastic tool. Sadie, have you got a tool?
I think for me, it's really starting to get under Canva, with the wonderful help actually of Joanna Cates Creates. So I've been using Canva to sort of build a lot of the content, but not really fully understanding or using it to its full extent. So I'm sort of learning all of those elements. And the next big thing for me is to start doing video. So that kind of sends a chill down my spine, but I know it is something that I do need to get into. So again, I'm working with Joanna, and I've actually had my tripod and my ring light were delivered. I got them out of the box, I looked, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look at that a bit later, and then it went back in the box again. So I need to become friends with it, and then start to become friends with myself when I video myself, which is going to be horrendous.
I'm not one of those people who pops up live and goes, "Hi, it's Sian here. This is what I'm doing." But in actual fact, I was going to have a chat with Adelle. We didn't get enough time this morning because we need to start doing something before the show. You know, we're not attached to the rest of the world. We're really not. We need to make some sort of effort. We really do. There's that TikTok thing, isn't there? Yeah. And there's all people doing funny things on things, reels and things like that. We've got to start doing something.
We could do some Instagram lives. Come and join us.
We've got to do something.
We need to sort the marketing out.
Yeah. Sadie, is there anything in particular on Canva that you find useful?
I think for me, it's starting to use, and again, this is through work with Joanna, realising that I can actually use my own photographs on there, and obviously now uploading my own videos, whereas it was very much using kind of the stock photos, which are great,
But they're not you.
No.
Right.
So, yeah, I've started to realise that I can use those and
enhance them and put them into different frames and different situations and build images around your own stuff.
Yes, so I can really start to get the brand, and also with the video in as well. Very early days, but starting to edit my own videos. Yes. There's a long way to go, but that's where we're heading. Yeah,
I'm not allowed to do that sort of thing because I throw things out the window. Joanna, we're going to ask you in the next half of the show. So if you're listening in now and you don't know where the next half of the show is because it's all been edited and split into two, oh dear. We'll help you. We'll put a link in somewhere. Have I got a tour? I have actually got a tour. Having spent, not quite the week actually, but having spent quite a lot of time in my bed, it's journals and my pen. So it's actually just taking time out and away from the office, away from everything else, and away from other places that I may go to with other disturbances, and actually just spending time with myself, writing stuff down, planning, sorting my thoughts out. And it's that I think we get so wrapped up in being busy. You know, I run loads of events, I've got radio shows, I do a lot of live stuff where I'm out and about doing things with lots of other people, or I'm getting ready to do things with lots of other people. And sometimes, but I get to the end of the week and I haven't spent any time really with myself and just regrouping and catching up. And if I'm not careful, that can actually go on for weeks of being really seriously busy. But I'm not sure I'm achieving anything. And so just taking that time to sit down, and I had the telly on in the background, so I wasn't, sitting there monk-like staring at the wall. I was just spending some relaxed time, and, as thoughts popped up, I wrote them down. And it was amazing, actually, how much stuff came out and how much progress I made with my business projects by actually doing, I was going to say sweet FA, but actually sweet FA. So spend time by yourself with your journal and just let stuff happen. We're on to books, aren't we? Mm-hmm. You can go first.
So just downloaded it, started to listen to it, but he just captured me, the title, The Art of War for Women. So it's taken the original piece of work and it's got an adaptation through women. So I'm going to have to share that on the next show, probably the one after, because it's a long read, but it's something that I wanted to do. And again, it comes back to, so I'm going to stop reading short reads and actually take something that's a bit deeper, a bit stronger, and actually spend time on it. And that was the title that I captured.
So, The Art of War for Women.
Yeah.
Do you know who that's by?
Oh no.
Don't worry.
Put a link in the show notes.
I'm sure people can find it. Not a problem. Sadie, are you reading a book at the moment?
I am, yes. I'm dipping in and out of this one, and it's called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women, and it's by Valerie Young, and it looks at why capable people suffer from imposter syndrome. And it was quite enlightening because Valerie actually talks about the fact that there are 5 types of imposter that you might fall into, which was quite surprising. And then when I might
fall into all of them.
When I've kind of gone through them, I can definitely sort of pinpoint, the ones that I definitely am.
Oh, okie dokie. I like it. I'm reading a book, actually. I've got it on audiobook, and I got it from... Do you remember we had on Michael Yanni last week?
Yeah.
And she spoke about The Secret, the money version for The Secret. Well, I got it on audio, and it's really good. That's it, really.
No, I'm going to put that one. Oh, good. Yeah. Yes, you did.
Yeah, and it's quite sort of short and sweet. It's only a couple of hours long.
Okay.
But it's nice. It's good.
I should put that.
And even if you don't think you have a problem with money, I'd listen to it because I think everybody has something with money. So because it's a bit like food. I think everybody has something because we need it. I think everybody has a thing around money. Just some people have worse things than others. So it was. I think whatever stage you're at, or however much you don't think you have a thing with money, it's an interesting read, and it's really useful. So that's my book of the week. Okay, not smacking my lips or drawing in breath or going too much. What have you learnt this week?
What have I learnt this week? It does link back to what you just said, and that it's okay to stop. It's okay to stop and okay to breathe. I've got a lot going on at the moment, and I have a tendency to just keep going, and then the breathing gets shorter and shorter. So for me, the biggest thing I've learned this week is okay to stop and breathe.
I think sometimes what happens is when we've got a lot of stressful stuff, or we're very, we've got a lot of stuff going on, busy action is a coping mechanism, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It stops us thinking.
Yeah.
It stops us dwelling too much on things we might not want to dwell on. And before you know where you are, you sort of hit a brick wall.
Yes.
So I can understand we don't, there are things we just don't want to think about. Horrible things happen that may not have anything to do with our business. It's just horrible things happen. And sometimes we race and race and race to stop ourselves dwelling on it or living in that moment.
Mm.
But it doesn't help in the long run, does
No,
it?
it doesn't. No. So I've learned to stop, breathe,
No.
and write down those thoughts.
Mm. And sometimes you just have to sort of let it happen.
Mm. Absolutely. Go with the flow.
Sadie, what have you learnt this week?
I suppose a bit of the whole slow down, but I think for me is take a little bit of time and not constantly race ahead thinking, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. I suppose the book around imposter syndrome, because I'm reading quite a lot of it, I think I'm definitely, a lot of it's resonating with me. Oh, I'm an imposter, I'm a fraud. So yesterday I actually took a bit of time to not try and worry about all the things I haven't done, because there are things I haven't done and I will get to them, but actually look back at all the things that I have done over the last couple of years. And that was quite therapeutic, actually, because whereas you sometimes think, oh, I'm no good, I can't do this, actually I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I have done that, and I have done this, and I've learnt this, and I've learnt that. So that was really good, and I think I just need to make sure that I position that every week, a little bit of time of reflection to think about where I've come from and where I am. Then I can start to prepare myself to what I need to do. Yeah.
That's very similar, but a little bit different to what I've learnt this week, actually. So as part of what I was doing when I was sort of sitting there and just making notes and letting things happen and emerge, I'd suddenly realised I came up with an idea, and the first thing I've done is I've reached for the laptop to start implementing it. But this is actually sort of quite a big idea. It's like, hey, start a new newsletter. It's not all, move that from there to there and we're done. It's actually quite a big thing. It needs a strategy. Why am I starting a newsletter? What's going to be in it? Who's it for? Where am I going to host it? How often is it going to go out? Not just open the laptop and start writing it and off we go. And I caught myself doing this quite a few times, actually. So actually, no, just write the damn thing down. Write it down, put it somewhere, and build it into part of a strategy and actually work out, where does this fit? Where does it fit with where I'm trying to go, with what I'm trying to achieve? And then where is it going to be hosted? How often is it going to do? How often is it going to happen? Not just open it and off I go. And I've spent quite a lot of my time doing that, actually, just coming up with an idea and then just like starting it straight away. And then before you know where you are, the other problem with that is not only do you end up doing something that may not fit somewhere, or you end up doing something that you've actually already done somewhere else but slightly differently and forgotten about.
Yep.
But the entire day can be derailed.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it's going to take me sort of quite some time to write an article properly. And so, if I opened up the laptop, because this is what I would have done before, I opened up the laptop, hey, let's do this, where am I going to host it? Oh, I don't know, I've hosted things there before. Let's try a new platform, I'll go and learn that. So now instead of doing it on Constant Contact or Engage Bay or Substack, where I normally do it, I go, I tell you what, I'm going to try it on ConvertKit. I wonder what it's like over there. Of course, I don't know ConvertKit. So I've got to set up an entire account and learn how to use it, and then I've got to write the article and, decide I've got to produce the newsletter, then I've got to find the pictures, and of course I haven't got any. And before I know where I am, it's like the entire day's gone and I haven't actually finished. In which time I sort of close the laptop and go, I'm not going to get that done today, am I?
It's a chase.
Yeah, and what have I done? Actually nothing, because then it gets shut away and totally forgotten about, because I've actually got other things that I really do need to do and that are on my list that have to be done.
Yeah.
So I learnt, actually, so a newsletter is a really good idea. Let's pop it over there into the stuff that needs to be done or thought about. So that's what I've learnt. Stop. Don't do it now. Write it down. Where are we up to now? Sucks in through teeth. we're on to quotes and thoughts, aren't we? What's your favourite quote or thought of the week?
My quote of the week is, "Change is scary, but so is staying still."
Did you make that up yourself?
No, I found it on one very great social media platform of Instagram. No,
do you know who said it originally?
No.
Are we going to give them any credit?
No, me. I'm going to repurpose it.
Okay.
Because change, everything we do is
you're
about
going to claim it, are you?
I'm going to claim it. And it's so true, because we talk about change and it's scary, but so is staying still. And I think that's the biggest thing I've realised. And I just kept that front and centre. It's going to be uncomfortable this week. I'm pushing boundaries. I'm going into new opportunities. But sometimes that's how change feels. So I have that on a Post-it note written on my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Sadie.
I've got one. And this is, "A strong woman looks a challenge in the eye and gives it a wink." And that's actually Gina Carey, so not mine. I haven't come up with that one, but I actually do like that one.
I steal everything I've got.
Yes, I do like that one, because there are a lot of challenges. And I heard something, I can't remember if I read it or heard it, where someone's reframed, "I used to have a lot of stress in my life, but now I've reframed it as excitement." And I think that's quite good as well. You know, we have a lot of excitement in our lives, different degrees of it.
Yeah, and I think if you're going to run a business, you have to be ready for stress and excitement. And I think that's... I hasten to put this, I think that's why a lot of us do it.
Yep.
You create your own excitement, don't you? You create your own stress. You create your own... I don't like the word stress, but I know it's movement, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's movement, and if you're going to have movement, there is going to be a stress, but not necessarily in a bad way. It doesn't have to be a horrible stress. It can be a good stress.
But at least it's our stress and it hasn't been created by somebody else and it's forced upon us.
I'm never quite sure whether that's good.
Create our own dramas.
Sitting there going, "Hey, I've done all of this myself. There's nobody I can blame apart from me."
But do you know what? It's still true.
No, you're absolutely right.
My drama is my own drama.
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to avoid drama at the moment, because we do create lots of drama, don't we? We create lots of drama around money. We create lots of drama around all sorts of things, arguments with people. And it annoys quite a few people that I actually won't argue. I don't know if that's how you feel. Fine, lovely. Okay. You go have that with yourself. Me, this is what I'm doing. I'm writing a newsletter. So my quote or thought is, "It's all happening as it's supposed to." I use that when I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I haven't done that. Oh God, I said I was going to do that 6 months ago and I still haven't done it." When I'm beating myself up for actually what I haven't achieved, it's that. It's all happening as it's supposed to. And I find that helps me just go, "Oh, okay," and calm down a little bit. And when I look back, it has all happened as it's supposed to. As frustrating as it may be, and as horrible as some of the things might have been, they all brought me to a different place and a better point.
Yeah.
So it's all happening as it's supposed to. Well, we're done with that now, haven't we? We've done all the tools, we've done the books, we've done what have we learnt, we've done the quotes and thoughts. Now what are we going to do? We better go over and have a proper chat with our guest, hadn't we? So welcome Sadie properly into the show, Sadie Gough. Tell us a little bit about what you do first of all, and how you got there.
Okay, so I am a confidence and mindset coach. So I help women who may be finding that their confidence is wavering, and they need some help to have some direction. They might want to know where they're going, but they just need to help in kind of refocusing the direction that they're going in. Might have, negative beliefs about themselves, don't believe in themselves, and they might be wanting to get to a crossroads and they want to make some change in their lives, but again, don't really know how to do that. So for me, I work with them to help them understand, what their direction is, what their purpose is, look at their core values, and start to get them to believe in themselves, what they're good at, what their strengths are, and ultimately how they talk to themselves, because I think that's a really big thing. If you're negative, then that drives how you believe about yourself, and ultimately your confidence is impacted. So the mindset element is around starting to help women develop a positive growth mindset. And reframing those negative, thoughts that they might have. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I do.
What sort of women do you work with?
So, women that are in business, so similar to kind of what I'm doing now, because, yeah, that's been a roller coaster. And also women from a corporate background, because that was my background as well for many a year, and understanding how, when your confidence wavers, how that can have quite a detrimental impact on your performance, what you do, the decisions you make and things like that.
So, just thinking this through, hang on a minute, folks. I'm just thinking about where to start, because one of the things that you mentioned earlier, off air, was about new directions, and that's sort of what I want to call this show. It's about new directions with confidence. But when do women tend to know that they need you? Because I think I don't think people actually sit there and go, hey, I think I need a business coach, or I need a coach, or I need to take a new direction that I'm not taking. I don't think it sort of manifests itself like that. People don't make a rational, reasoned judgment and then go and find somebody, do they? They tend to, I'm going to say, go a bit loopy first, but they tend to sort of show symptoms that are sort of not sitting and thinking about it. So how do they know? What sort of things do they come with to you, saying, thinking and feeling?
Some of the clients that I've had have been struggling with how they interact with people at work, so they feel that they're not able to kind of progress. So I think a lot of them are finding that there is a struggle, a challenge that they're coming across. And it doesn't have to be a big thing, but they recognise that it's holding them back from where they want to kind of progress. So it could be that they're already in a work environment and they want to sort of, expand on kind of their career, but they're struggling, don't necessarily know kind of the direction that they want to go through. And I think it's when they realise that they're holding themselves back. And it is difficult. It is difficult to kind of know. I mean, my experience was that, I was ploughing ahead in my corporate world, not enjoying necessarily where I was. And my performance itself was dive bombing, but I didn't realise that at the time. And yes, sometimes it is through talking with other people, and this is the problem people encounter with change. You don't necessarily understand right at that very beginning point. It's kind of what they call pre-contemplation. You don't necessarily know that there is a change that needs to happen, and sometimes it could be through a third party or a partner or a colleague that kind of talks to you and kind of brings to the fore that there isn't something quite right. And so, yeah, it could be that a change is required of them, so you might feel you've been put on. But sometimes it could be you've got yourself, or you find yourself in a situation actually where you want to progress, you want to do something different, but you just don't quite know how.
You don't know where to get there. One of the things that just sort of struck me there was about performance issues, because I think sometimes, very often as women, we're quite hard on ourselves, and we assume, we take on a mantle of, I'm not doing this well enough, or I'm not doing enough of it. But what we're talking about here, and I think this is where it becomes really critical, is that these are real performance issues, aren't they? So we could be, you could find yourself facing a situation not where just you think you're not doing well enough, but actually you actually aren't doing well enough. Somebody else is coming to you, you're having an appraisal if you're in a job, and you are underperforming. And somebody's now saying to you, hey, missus, it's time to sort of get your act together. So that's the first thing. If you're in business, however, you don't get an appraisal, do you? So you sort of have to do that yourself. You just sort of have to set your own performance standards and recognise when you're actually, it's not your imagination, you are actually underperforming. You're not being hard. You are not doing what you should be doing or what you were doing. And I think that can be quite difficult sometimes, can't it? To distinguish between the, hey, I'm just crap, between I really am not doing what I should be.
Yeah, it's not a very easy sort of line to kind of draw. And I suppose with business women, I feel that for those individuals that have taken that decision and option to start up by themselves. That's not a small decision to make. That's quite a big thing. So I would say that for women in that kind of environment, they've already taken a massive step to get into that position anyway. But yeah, it can be quite difficult to know, particularly like for myself, starting up. I kind of get to a point where I don't know what I don't know.
Yes.
And that's sometimes when you need to reach out to others and link in with others that might have done these things before to be able to understand, okay, well, how can I learn? How can I do that? So with the confidence thing, it's sometimes just helping people to recognise that actually you've got a lot of it already inside you. You just need to tap into it to know how to use it. But yeah, that very, very first starting point, it can be quite a tricky one.
But I one of the things that came out there, and it's something I haven't done actually, is to set performance standards. Sort of at the start to say, okay, how am I going to know if I am underperforming or on track? You know, so it's a bit like having service standards, something that you can go, okay, I've produced this amount of stuff. And I think we also need to focus on, are we going to focus on outputs or outcomes? So that's a corporate thing that I always, you know, that was always quite a clear distinction for me, is because very often people focus on outputs. I've written this amount of stuff, I've written this amount of words, whereas outcomes is what actually happened. Did anybody read it? Did anybody say anything? Did it get anywhere? And what happened with it? What was the outcome? But to actually set something so that you know whether you are on track or not. And then you know whether you're actually falling behind or whether it's all in your head and you're just being hard on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things that I use within my coaching is around how to set outcomes. And that was one of the things I struggled with when I was in the corporate world. You'd have goals and you'd have performance plans, but there was never any connection with what you needed to achieve. So when I realised that actually in order to understand how you're going to get to your outcome, you've got to become really connected and engaged with it. So that's what I take women through so that they can really start to go through all the kind of key levels to work out, well, what is their desired outcome, and do they have the right resources to do it? Do they have the right people around them that are going to help them? How are they going to set their goals to work towards it? So there's quite a good structure for business women because, yeah, you're right, you don't have performance guidelines as such, and you have to set them yourself.
So looking at if we sort of on the topic that, to be fair, I came up with, I didn't tell you, did I? I just announced it. the new directions with confidence. It's I suppose you have to set performance standards after you know where you're going, but that's one of the things that you need to do is set those performance standards. And looking at the new directions stuff as well, you mentioned a couple of other things, which is core values. And I think those are things that people know, but very often haven't thought about. And I think what should we call it, a breach or somebody treading all over your core values is a very good reason for heading in a new direction. Isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think very often it's one of the things that can almost sort of derail us and we don't quite know why. And that's because somebody is stepping over our core values. So shall we explain perhaps what some of examples of core values and how you can find out yours?
Yep. So again, this is one of the things that I use with my clients to kind of align with what their purpose is, so understand, you know, what gets them out of bed in the morning, you know, what drives them, what they're good at. But core values is a really, really important one as well. And I kind of, through my own journey to get to where I was, actually did kind of those exercises to identify core values. And it's quite a simple process that you can kind of go through. But when you really understand what your core values are, it's fantastic in helping you make decisions. It helps you understand, you know, the kind of people you want to engage with, because, yeah, other people might not have the same core values as you, but you can still kind of work and engage with them quite well. But yeah, it definitely, you know, it could be that you might want to go for another job or a promotion. But actually, when you start to have a look at what that company or the business is involved in, does it actually sit closely with does it align with your values? And sometimes if it doesn't, then actually that's a really good way of helping you make a decision.
You have to make, So let's look at ways that you can actually work out what your core values are. So I think a really good question is, what really matters to me in the context of my career? And just see what pops up. Just see what pops up. It could be, I don't know, it could be interest, it could be money, it could be development, it could be learning. One thing I found out when I looked at my core values is that one of my core values is honesty. Don't ever, ever lie to me. If somebody lies to me, that's it. If I find out, you are gone. I don't mind I can deal with anything that you've done, but if you lie to me, you've had it. And I was quite surprised. I always sort of knew it was there, but I didn't quite know. Does that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that sort of make sense? You know, I knew somebody would do something, and it would be like, whoa. But once I understood what it was that mattered, then life got simpler. And do you know what wasn't in my core values when I went through this process? And this was even more interesting. Fun. When I looked through the list of core values that I'd brought out, and I then looked at sort of a list of possible core values, I realised that fun wasn't in there, and neither was money. So if you do this exercise where you find out what your core values are, and you then start to look at it and you think, what's missing from here? If you're in business and money is missing from your core values, you need to sort of think about how you're going to do it. How are you going to run this? And you can, once you become aware of that, sometimes you can sort of move money into your core values. But it's very difficult to run a business when money is really not that important. So core values, if you're looking at a new direction, you really, and it could be a breach of your core values. I'm just sort of summing it up here. A breach of your core values is what could be saying to you, actually, I have got to get out of this. It's time for a change. It's time to move to a different place.
Yeah.
What you want to make sure, and I think this is what a lot of us do, is we then repeat what we've done before. We go back to exactly the same place, or exactly the same type of thing. It's just in a different place with perhaps a different group of people that we actually sort of go through that process and think about where we're heading and are we going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think with the core values, I mean, we can go through the exercise and we can identify our 5 core values. It's great, and you can put them on a post-it note and you see them every day. What the next step is making sure that you live those core values. And one of the exercises that we'll do is to have a look at, okay, you've identified your core values. How often do they show up in your day-to-day life? And if they're not showing up at all or not much, how are you then going to introduce them? What are you going to do on a daily basis? And it doesn't have to be massive things. It could be tiny little things that you can start to introduce, but you build an action plan around that so that you can start to live those on a daily basis, because otherwise you're just going to constantly be going off in a different direction to where you know you need to be going. So that's kind of one thing that I focus on quite heavily.
And it's I think it's really important to get to grips with this. So for instance, if one of your core values is structure, you have to make sure that wherever you are in your career, be it a business or whether you're working for somebody, that you have that actually as part of it. So if one of your core values is structure and security, are you getting that? Are you getting that where you're currently employed, or is it all over the place?
Absolutely. And again, just building on that, when God, like Sadie, like most of us here, spending time in corporate, you have those values imposed on you. All right. So therefore, first of all, well, these are my core values, but these are the company's values, and you do your best to uphold them. When I actually sat and then moved into my own business, I thought to myself, okay, actually, for the first time in my life, I'm creating my core values for my business. And I thought, actually, no, they're the core business of me. It's me. And then everything flows from that. And then what I've been able to do is you meet people, you have conversations, and everyone wants to collaborate, and everyone wants to do stuff with you. And if I don't get those core values in, I just say, no, yeah, but it's a brilliant idea and you could earn X, Y, and Z. But do you know what? Money isn't at the top. It's trust, it's understanding, and it's growth. And if I don't get those 3, it's a no. And people say, yeah, but it's a brilliant deal. Yeah, but you don't get it. I'm going by my values first. And these values that create this a good deal are lower down to me, because for the first time in my life, after 32 years, I can actually have values that I'm aligned to in my business. And if you don't like my values,
well, there you go.
Well, there you go. Bye.
But I think that's so important, isn't it? Because money may be at the top of somebody else's values, and that's not right or wrong. That's just their value.
It's about how they align,
and that's absolutely fine. So it could be that they go and they connect with somebody who has money at the top of their core values, and off we go. I think you end up with problems where perhaps money is at the top of your core values, but maybe honesty isn't, and then perhaps that's where you end up in prison.
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's a critical thing to look at when you're looking at a new direction, and before you're making any decisions about who you're going to work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. It just helps all that decisioning, and then once you get past the 3 values and they're aligned, then you can go into the business plan, the financials and the numbers. I don't go there first anymore. I go to my core values first, then I go into the plan.
And I think once you know what your core values are, you don't have to go through this elucidation process. Is that a word, elucidation?
Yeah.
My vocabulary is bigger than I am. You don't have to go through this process with somebody. Very often people will tell you what their core values are in their conversations.
Yeah, they will show up.
If you're having a conversation with somebody and you're talking about perhaps doing a program together, working together, and you're saying, well, that's okay. So how can we make sure that people, the people that we're working with are really enjoying what they're getting, that they're able to use it, that they're actually coming out of it with something good, and the other person's going, well, that doesn't matter as long as we deliver it. As long as we deliver it, that will be fine. You've got they're not wrong, you're not right. It doesn't matter. It's just actually there's a terrible mismatch there, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And it is not going to work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just listen to the conversations and say, are we aligned here in our core values? Have I spent long enough on core values?
I think that's good.
That's good. I think I'd forgotten about core values. Actually, you've got to go back to them. And I've got some new directions coming up at the moment. So thank you very much. I use this.
Yes.
I use this. Sorry, I should have pointed out this. I use this like my own coaching. I don't pay for it.
I forgot to tell you.
If there's something I need to know, if I need some help with my books, I get an accountant in.
We did that last week.
It works wonders. It works wonders. I'll tell you what.
Perks of the job.
You mentioned earlier something else that I think is critical, and that's how you are talking to yourself. Because when I realised that I was having conversations that I didn't realise I was having, that's when things opened up for me. So what do you mean by how women are talking to themselves?
So for me, this comes out with I call my little gremlin or my inner critic, who basically, doesn't believe in you. Mine's called Margot, and he is from The Good Life. I imagine my inner critic dressed up and, being very critical. I had that for quite a long time. It's still there, but I know how to manage her much better. I allow her to have a little say every now and again, because I think, that inner critic is there to try and protect you. That's what they're there for, But yeah, I think sometimes it kind of goes back to, if we don't believe in ourselves, if we don't believe that we can do good things, we've got some good strengths and skills, we will constantly talk ourselves down from doing things. And I did that a lot. And I wouldn't necessarily take opportunities because I think I couldn't do it. And it fits into the imposter syndrome as well. It's all very kind of interlinked. So now I try and make sure that if I notice that little negative Neris is coming out, and Margot, I'll listen as to, okay, is this a valid point that's being made? And more often than not, it's because I'm about to step outside my comfort zone. That's when she starts to get a little bit louder, because ultimately, you don't want to be doing that. You don't want to go through there. And I have to kind of push myself, and I think the last 2 years have been very much me pushing through my comfort zone, and there's been several times I think I can't do this, I'm going to sit back here in this wonderful little world, but realise that I'm not going to get anywhere with it. And I think that's the problem. Our critical voices will keep us rooted in the same spot all of the time.
Was there a time that you weren't aware of Margot? That she was there, but you weren't aware of her?
I think I've always been aware, but by giving her a name, giving her a personality, I can accept her a lot more. But yeah, I think in the past when I was working in my corporate world and the sort of perimenopause situation kicked in, which I didn't know, which kind of I think woke her up quite a lot actually. There was times within that environment where I'd been quite capable of doing my job, and suddenly that little doubt crept in and it got bigger and bigger. But it was a drip feed, so you didn't wake up one morning. It was constantly just niggling away. But yeah, I think once I had my little blip, as I call it, and had to take 3 months out of work because I'd pushed myself too much to burn out, I then basically took a lot of time to really start to get to know who I was, what I do, and what I'm good at, what I'm not so great at, and what I need to develop on. And that's where I came very much aware of Margot, as she's called now, and realised that actually I needed to put her in her place, because otherwise I couldn't do a lot of the things that I've done now if I'd listened to her as much as I had done in the past.
Have you got a voice in your critical voice?
I have.
Okay. Joanna, have you got one? And
Absolutely.
Was there a point when you weren't aware of it?
There was, and I was probably
so. It's still going on. We're not saying it wasn't happening. It didn't just arrive when you were 30. These critical voices, but or voice. It doesn't have to be a critical voice, could it? I think some people have a voice that's going, "Yes, you're fantastic. Get on with it. Yes, it's brilliant. Off you go." It's not mine.
Absolutely. So I've always had my voice. I've always had that voice. Again, there is this is why I do the work that I do. When did my voice raise her head? Was when I hit perimenopause and I had to take some time out on burnout, and that was because basically I just ignored it.
So I
was forced to look at. I was forced to listen.
So were you? See, I had a point where everybody was talking about this critical voice. And I had absolutely no idea. I thought it was sitting there and consciously going, well, that's crap, isn't it? And you failed again. And then, I can't even remember what age I was, I suddenly realised that I was running a dialogue in my head. And mine's actually arguments. So I argue with people, particular people, I'm not going to say who they are. And I realised I was having these really horrible arguments with people, telling them actually what I should be saying to their face. I've dealt with that. But it was. I was really quite old when I realised I was running this dialogue. And so, Joanna, it was the same for you. You realised.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And I didn't realise that it was me that was holding myself back in quite a few ways until I started journaling.
Okay.
And that pretty much brought so much to the surface. And then you can identify, pass the blame on to, not blame, but you start directing why you behave in certain fashions because of how things happened in your life or what's preventing you from moving forward. And I say it was journaling that unleashed everything.
So I think the key here is actually to become aware of your, we'll call it internal dialogue.
Yeah.
It may be critical, it may be mine was arguments, mine was conversations I should have been having and wasn't.
Yeah. Absolutely, because I've changed mine. She's there, but we have discussions. So it's not, I don't let her take over. But yeah, absolutely. I do a lot of internal dialoguing now and preempting, visualising where I'm going, having that conversation, the theatre of my mind. So I've reworked her job responsibilities. This is what you do for me, not that anymore. And she gets a performance review if she starts. She's crept in a bit this week, so Alice is on the naughty step. And Annabelle's coming up, and I've got Alice and Annabelle. No, I'm getting to help for this, but it just helps.
Are you?
I am. But it's how
Get
I
help quicker.
But it's how I help balance.
Get help before next week.
I'm launching tomorrow. I'm going to be working with lots of women. Be very scared.
The conversations that I was having that were quite argumentative, I realised that I just had to stop them, basically. There wasn't anything constructive that could happen with them. And I've worked out 2 ways to stop them. The first is mindfulness. So, and that can be really, really simple, just from concentrating on how your feet feel as you're walking across the floor, or how your bum feels on the car seat. And I would find that sort of takes the focus off it. And wine. Wine works. Wine works quite well. But as soon as I became aware of these arguments, actually, the life changed.
Yes,
life did change. So I think awareness is the key. So I think that's such an important thing that you've brought up today, Sadie. So thank you so much for that. What else are we going to talk about? I've got stuff written down here, but I think we've covered it all for the time being. I think we've covered it all. So what we're going to do is we are going to go very quickly around the table. And we're going to have a sort of a quick fire round. Having said I don't put anybody on the spot, guess what? I am just
even I'm not aware.
Putting you on the spot.
That wasn't on the plan.
No, it's just something I've regurgitated from a little while ago. And we seem to have forgotten about it during lockdown. We sort of locked down.
Well, we went Zoom, didn't we?
Yeah, it was all. But now we're back. Now we're back on track. Now, Sadie, you came from corporate world into starting your own business.
Yes.
So, looking at all of that, what is your top tip for being in business?
Oh my goodness, you've got me there. Believe in yourself, I think. The other one for me is coming from corporate. I felt quite institutionalised, and then suddenly you get this freedom. And it feels like you're a bird uncaged, and I kept wanting to get back in the cage, and that was quite difficult. So I think you have to give yourself time to transition from that corporate world into setting up your own business, because there's similarities, but they are huge caverns of difference. And give yourself time. And not expect to be like everybody else that might have been doing it for 10, 15 years, which I had fallen into that trap. It's taking it a step at a time.
And what do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out?
That it's actually, I am capable of it. Because I think at the time, when you kind of come out of that corporate world, a lot of things are kind of done for you, and I think when you come out into that, it's having that belief that you might not know what you don't know right now, but there are people out there that you can help and go to and get that. So that's what I would say.
You got anything to add? I'm smacking my lips together again. I'm still doing it, honestly. It must be infuriating if you're listening in. I'm so sorry. Please stay.
Again, what I would say is you've got everything you need. What you need to do, for me, the biggest thing I didn't do quickly enough was just build the right network. I was just floating around, and actually I had more in me than I had to give, and then it was just about how I build that network from there.
So build the right network.
I was in a network, the right one.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't have a tip today because we've run out of time. So, in the studio today we had Sadie Gough and Joanna Cates, and we are going to be continuing after this break, focusing with Joanna on Unleashed by Lockdown, which is also going to bring in new directions and confidence. So, I can't believe it myself. There's a theme. We are good this week. We will be back. If you're listening to the recording of this on Apple, iTunes or anything like that, it'll be in the next show. But we're going to round it up today. I'm Sian Murphy. My co-host is Adelle Martin. We will see you all in the next show. Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.